Okay, the goal of this video and this last assignment was to pick 2 informal and 2 formal speeches to talk about and to rewatch. I rewatched 2 informal and 2 formal, and my first informal that I watched was my first introduction video that was at the very first day of the course that we had to turn in. And I think this was one of my, I picked, for my informal speeches, I picked what I thought was my best 2 informal speeches that I gave. And I thought that my introduction speech, I did a good job with, looking at the camera, trying to make eye contact, and I thought I did an okay job with my delivery, with my voice being strong. I talked about how I was a little bit nervous for this public speaking class because I do have a fear of public speaking, but I think that it really has gotten a little better with this course. My second informal speech is the infomercial that I did with the Monroe's Motivated Steps. I think that one was my best informal speech just because I used facial expression, and I think that I got my point across pretty well. In that one we were supposed to convince somebody to buy our product or to buy a product, and my product was the actual weed killer. And to me, I actually made that up just because the day before I have been dealing with weeding out my garden, and it frustrated me so much that I really wish that somebody would make an actual weed killer to spray on the plants and not kill the plants, just the weeds. But I thought that my delivery and my facial expressions and my transitions, and really the key idea for the speech, I think that everyone knew what I was trying to convey in that one. My first informal speech that I would like to talk about is the speech to inform. We were supposed to know an autobiography about us, and that one I could tell that I was struggling with speaking in front of the audience, and you could tell I was nervous, and I was relying on my outline and my notes to get me through the speech. I was trying to make eye contact, but I did not make it enough, and I feel like even though I had practiced a ton for this speech, this was my first formal speech, and I think that kind of made me really, really nervous, especially with my family. I kind of found through this course that giving a speech to my family rather than my, friends of friends, through my other speeches, I felt like giving a speech to my family was a lot harder than giving a speech to people I'm not really around all the time. I think that my voice was strong, but my delivery wasn't there. It didn't really seem like I was actually speaking to my audience. I was just reading off a piece of paper. And that's another thing. The next formal speech that I would like to talk about is my last formal speech, was my formal speech to Actuate, and that was about yoga and convincing people to do yoga. I think that all in all, compared to my first formal speech and my last formal speech, I think that I could see improvement in relying on my outline and relying on my notes that I had made. And I think that my transitions, that was one of the things that on my previous formal speeches that you could tell that my transitions weren't really flowing, and I think that my last speech, everything really tied in very well, and that my citations really went well with my what I was trying to convince my audience to do. And I think I did a lot better on my last one than my first one, or even the other ones in between. The problems in my speeches that a lot of my peer reviews said and my professor said was the fact that I did not have really good delivery, and I needed to practice in the mirror. I actually did this for my last 2 speeches, and it really seemed to help with my facial expression and just to see kind of how I was delivering to people and my audience, and kind of practice more on relying on what I had researched and what I had did my speech over, and what I had in my brain, rather than going off notes or an outline. That looking in a mirror while trying to practice for your speech really, really did help me. I did struggle with using notes, and it seemed like I had practiced and I had practiced, and as soon as I got in front of my audience, I felt like I didn't really remember a lot, and I knew I had it in there, but it was just kind of hard to put into words where it would actually come out, you know, well rehearsed. Yeah, I really do believe I already talked about the feedback from my professor and my peer reviews. Those really did help me out, especially with the tips on how to help, you know, overcoming public speaking fear, and really looking in the mirror and kind of seeing how I was presenting my speech and relying on what I had in my head and what I had researched rather than notes in my outline. And I think that my last speech kind of showed that a little better. I still have a lot to work on. I have to rely less on my notes and just kind of calm down and speak to my audience, and realize that a lot of people do have the same fear of public speaking like I do, and I think that that makes it a little bit easier. But that is definitely something that I have to improve on, and I just need to be more confident when I'm speaking. If I've rehearsed and I've practiced like I should, and I practice in front of a mirror to see how I come, you know, deliver my speech, I think that if I do all that, then I should be more confident, and I should worry less about what people may think of my speech, and rather just be confident in what I'm saying, and just improving more and not relying on my notes and my outline. But I did learn a lot in this course, and I feel a little more confident, and I know now how to improve my public speaking and really conquer my fear of public speaking.